right, hello and welcome. Thanks everybody for joining us today for the Skuid Experience Workshop. We're going to be going through a detailed overview of just how to build some stuff in Skuid. Before we begin, I wanted to introduce the folks that will be joining me today. I'm Sean. I'm on the marketing team here at Skuid, and I'm joined by Matt Brown, who has recently moved from our product organization to our product marketing organization to run that, and will be the further MC after I do the intro. Matt, say hello.
Hey everyone.
All right. Also joining us today is Chris Stern, who combined with Matt will forget more in a month about Skuid than I will ever be able to learn. They are phenomenal hosts for the rest of the session today, and also crazy fanatical Ted Lasso fans like I am. Chris, say hello.
Swag, Skuid swag. Everyone got a different shirt on today. Impressive.
Yeah, exactly. We spread it around. All right, fantastic. So Matt and Chris, thanks for joining me today. Everybody else, thanks for jumping in. And speaking of, I'm going to do that right now with a quick overview of what Skuid is. All right, so just to lay some foundation, right? Modern thriving companies require agility at all levels. Instead, what happens is they struggle with this tremendous friction on every task, and as a result of the apps, even the custom ones, they're forced to use. I challenge everybody on the line here today to think about your current business apps and how they compare to your favorite consumer apps. It's a problem that technology should fix, but isn't. SaaS sprawl, clunky legacy applications, poorly designed user experiences absolutely crush the agility and flow of your organizations. Slow to adjust businesses run the risk of fatal disruption. There are many tools to help you create apps faster, but none that solve the experience problem, because it isn't just about technology, it's about humans. One size does not fit all. Good enough isn't. Right? But what we're going to talk about today is if you could design and deliver apps that propel your unique business forward. Finding a way to seamlessly weave existing systems and data into useful, clear, efficient, and delightful user experiences that perfectly match the proper outcome. Chris will take us through a couple of those today. And what if you could do all of this starting on day one and every day after that instead of taking months and years? But moving from solving for requirements to solving for outcomes is painful and not a muscle that most organizations have developed. Traditional app development is slow, it's expensive, and it rarely delivers what the business needs. And resources and people, right, all of us are more constrained than ever. Business agility requires app agility, or continuously designing, creating, and delivering powerful business apps and experiences that put humans at the center. The Skuid approach focuses on the outcome or the problem and the best way for humans and automation to achieve it. Perfectly matched to that, our solution optimizes the creation and delivery of outcome-focused apps that will delight your users with useful, clear, and efficient experiences. Let's talk about that for a little bit. All right, what does that mean? In the Skuid world, it's declarative development. It is visually creating apps without needing code. If you want to, you can add it, but you don't need to. Having over 20 standard and configurable components to get off the ground fast, many of which Chris and Matt will take you through during the rest of this presentation. Logic, the component and element logic that is required to put that correct user experience together, and then a design environment that allows you to get pixel perfect without having to jump down to CSS. So the benefits of that are extending native Salesforce functionality. Think about the challenge that everybody runs into when you start to bend Salesforce into particular ways that it wasn't intended to be bent. It would be better to leave Salesforce doing what it's best at and then using a different orchestration a different orchestration toolkit on top of that to pull those different experiences together. Great news is that this declarative approach has a short learning curve that allows you to build and iterate faster and overall increase the user adoption. Because again, the Skuid way is not just to talk about technology, it's to talk about technology and the fundamental process of how I solve a problem. Design-led, human-centered design. So to talk more about that, I'll reintroduce Matt Brown, who's going to take it for the rest of the way, and we're working with Chris, and I bid everybody a fine workshop. Matt?
Thank you so much, Sean. Really appreciate it. Yeah, happy to jump in today. Really excited about this. Yeah, I mean, we talk about human-centered design a lot, and that's an easy word to throw around. What does that actually look like? And hopefully at the end of today, you'll get a good sense of what that is. For me, one of the things that I've seen over the years of building Skuid pages and Skuid apps with customers, it boils down to, is this what you mean? That kind of a question. When Sean was just talking, he talked about continuous design. Design isn't something that finishes, that's over. You're continuously designing apps because you should be continuously talking to your people, getting a sense of the problems that they're trying to solve. And when you find out what those problems are, the question is, how quickly can you react to that? And Skuid is one of the ways that you can do that. I would say it is a really good way of being able to react to that. And part of that is being able to quickly put something together and say, hey, is this what you mean? Whether, they're working on a data model, they think that they want to go from step 1 to step 2 to step 3. If you can actually put something in front of the user, in front of the stakeholder, that's actually functional, that's maybe tied to real data in your sandbox, it's not just a clickable wireframe. That's the kind of stuff that speeds up that loop, and it makes your stakeholders more confident that you're going to be able to deliver what it is that they need to get their jobs done. So we are going to dive in today. We're going to actually build some of these things that hopefully solve problems for you right now. Salesforce is a great tool. It's a great engine to run your business on. And chances are that if you're here, you are pushing that to the limits. And you're now getting into places where you might have to go to custom code to build a custom experience. And we want to show you that you don't have to do that. So we're actually going to build some of those solutions today where you might have to go to custom code right now. Maybe you've actually gone and voted for some of those ideas on the Salesforce community, and we're going to call that out. Let's do a few housekeeping items real quick, because I'm sure there are going to be some questions as we go. There is a comments section where you can be a part of a global chat. And you should see Q&A as well. If you ask a question, we've got Cody on our product content team and Wen, who is on the product marketing team with me. They are both very, very competent Skuid builders. They've been in this space for a long time. They are very knowledgeable. So they'll be answering questions, but we're also going to keep track of those as we go, because we want to carve some time off at the end to be able to answer some of those questions verbally and get into some of that some more there. So please, if you have questions, if you're caught on something, please go ahead and post. We've got people that know that are on deck that are there to help you. And we are working from a workbook, which if you registered, you should have gotten a link for it. That should help you follow along. I would say at this point, just get on with us, watch the video, see what's going on there. You can always go back to the workbook after the fact. It walks through step by step each of those different things. So yeah, that's how we're going to do Q&A today. So please let us know if you need help with anything or if you have any particular questions. Yeah, I think the link to the workbook is going to post in the chat here in just a second. Thank you, team. So, all right, Chris, are you there?
I'm here. Hey, everybody.
Chris.
Hey, Matt.
All right. What kind of app are we going to build today?
Yeah, so we're going to basically just go through and knock off a bunch of different asked for requirements around related lists in Salesforce. And so some of those common enhancements, we just went to the Salesforce Communities Board and said, hey, what are the things that people are asking for? Let's just grab some of those and then show how we can build that out today. So we're going to be focusing primarily on enhancing related lists using Skuid and doing things like having as many columns as you want and as filtering and multiple views of the same related objects, all those sorts of things is what we're going to be focusing on, and then deploying it in Lightning and showing kind of how that process works too.
Awesome. Yeah, that brings to mind two things that I want to call out. The first is that Salesforce is a relational database. So the power of Salesforce is in creating accurate relationships in your data that represent the actual relationships of your business. And I've seen all kinds of fun horror stories about folks who build a data model based on what they want the UI to look like.
Yeah.
I remember, at one point, it wasn't this person's fault. They were doing the best they could, but, they had like an inventor object, and then they had an invention object, and they wanted to have an inventor be associated with multiple inventions and one invention be able to associate with multiple inventors. If you've been in Salesforce for a while, okay, that sounds like a many-to-many relationship. You can do that with a junction object. But of course, they had done it with just a lookup, and they set up a field: inventor 1, inventor 2, inventor 3, inventor 4. I'm sure we're all familiar with that challenge. And if you're the person that actually built that, not making a dig at you, I realize the pain that you were experiencing. And they realized there was a problem and reached out to Skuid because of that. But that was an example of they had gone that route because of how they wanted things to be seen and interacted with. And so, you want to make that stuff editable in line. And that can just be a challenge with the way things work out of the box in terms of UI. And so then you end up compromising your data model based on how you want things to appear. But then that means it's really hard to report on that data because the data model isn't structured for it. So what we want you to do is go with the out-of-the-box tools that Salesforce gives for building the right kind of data model so you can actually report on data accurately and not worry about whether or not you can deliver the right front-end experience. You know what? That's the first thing that I want to talk about, and I can't even remember what the second thing was. So let's just go ahead and keep moving. We're going to do some actual building today. So hopefully everyone's able to follow along in a dev org or in a sandbox that you got. I think, Chris, are you going to share your screen? We're actually going to do some building right now.
Yep. And It should be coming through. Can you see that, Matt? Got a record detail page on there. Okay.
Perfect.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. So I'm starting out here. And as Matt mentioned, and Sean mentioned too, if you guys want to build along like a dev org or sandbox, feel free to. I think it might be easiest for this because the workbook is so helpful. If you just watch this and then take the workbook with you afterwards and feel free to kind of work through that. The instructions are super clear. Cody and Wynn did a great job of making that copy helpful and valuable for you all. So couple options there.
Let me stop there for a second because they just don't get enough credit. They're answering questions here. They also put this curriculum together. If you've ever used Skuid Docs, I'm sure you've read something that was written by Cody. And if you've ever used our tip of the week, those are done by Gwen. Those are fantastic. Please go check those out. But just want to shout them out a little bit. We'll do that a few more times as we go.
Oh yeah, no, they're amazing. Cool. So let's start working. So here I'm just in a Lightning detail page, and all that I'm going to do is just show you how to navigate to Skuid. So from the app launcher, Skuid is installed as a managed package. So therefore you can just look to it, go to Skuid Central, and I've already got that tab open. So I'm just going to pop over there. And from here, we're going to start building a Skuid page. And then as we go, we'll be calling out the different pieces of functionality and how they relate to some of those commonly asked for requirements for Salesforce. So I'm going to click Create a Page. And I'm just going to name this page Related Lists. So that seems accurate. I'll create a page. And then what we're doing is getting taken to Skuid's App Composer. And the App Composer, kind of a quick tour of that, and then we'll start getting into the build, is made up of components over here on the top left with the little Lego block icon. And these are all the ways you can display or lay out data on a page. So things like lists and tables and forms and wizards and charts and calendars and accordions and all those fun things. And then the way that we bring data into the page, so the things that get the data that gets presented in those components, is through Skuid models. And we're going to be building some Skuid models here shortly. So I'll get into some more details once we get that point. What you can do though with the components is, if I grab a responsive grid and drag it down onto the canvas, I can add a few divisions, and it really is just a drag and drop point and click builder. So here's a table component, here's a responsive grid, and we're going to be obviously, since this is a build environment today and a workshop, we're going to be using all of this, but just wanted to show you a little bit of a tour. And then anytime you click on a component, you get the properties pane for that particular component up here in the top right. So there's the table properties, here's the responsive grid properties. So we're going to start, first of all, by tying this Skuid page that we're doing to a Lightning design system. And so a design system, the Design System Studio, is part of the Skuid product, and it lets you, as Sean was calling out on his intro, it lets you do like pixel perfect branding, theming, styling, all those kinds of things without needing to dip into HTML or CSS. Super cool.
I need to jump in. Yeah. If you've ever spent a whole afternoon trying to target the right CSS, it's a godsend. So yeah, that's going to be helpful. And I think we'll look at some of the cool things you can do with design systems later on today. But yeah, and actually, you know what? While I'm here, while I've interrupted you, one more note. If you've seen it in the comments there, stick around to the end. We will be raffling for a pair of Apple AirPods for the folks that have come today. So again, just as a thank you for everyone who's coming, but stick around. That'll come at the end there. All right, interruption over. Continue, Chris.
No, that's awesome. Thanks for doing that, Matt. Yeah, and the AirPods are sweet. It's a legit prize. Do we get some, Matt? We'll have to ask Sean.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. So yeah, let's start building. So I've got the page pointed to the Lightning design system, which just means that the color palette that I'm going to be using and the components are going to be styled based on Lightning's design system. So we can sort of blend this page into the Lightning page. And because we're doing sort of an enhanced related list, we're going to have Skuid right up next to the Lightning detail component. And this way it'll all feel a lot more seamless. So the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to grab a wrapper component and pull it down into my canvas. And the wrapper really just acts as sort of a div in that world, but it allows me to just group everything, all of my components inside of it, and then put some margin or spacing around it. And then everything inside of my wrapper will all have the same margin around the edges. So I'm just going to add 24 pixels of bottom left and right margin. And in the Design System Studio, we aren't digging into this today, but you can add all custom variants. So if it's not here, like 4, 12, 16, 24, 32, you can add your own custom spacing variants and anything else that you can imagine, colors, shadows, custom fonts, like all those different sorts of things. And so if you needed, 60 pixels of spacing for whatever reason, if you added that to your design system, it would be visible here. We're going to stick with 24 for bottom left and right. And then that's just going to let the page breathe a little bit around the edges.
Which is not negotiable. When we talk about design and human-centered design at Skuid, one of the most important parts of that is clarity. And that boils, one of the biggest parts of that is readability. This is not just an aesthetic choice. If it's hard to find information on the page, that means it takes time. That means it takes brain power. And if you multiply that across all of your pages, across all of your workers, that adds up. It might, lead to taking more time to accomplish certain business processes. It might lead to employee burnout. So these are the kinds of things that add up, and down to the pixel width. It's not just an aesthetic choice. It actually adds up and has real consequences for your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you think about things like 508 compliance and usability and all those sorts of things, the need to be able to design and be flexible in those designs is paramount. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add our first model to this page because we're going to go and get some data. And so I'm going to click the plus sign up here. I'm going to add a model. And a model is really just building out a question you're asking the database. And so I'm going to call this model related ops. And then my data source type is Salesforce. I can point to any customer standard object in my org. I'm just using standard objects today so that you all can go back and build this exact same thing in your respective environments. But like I said, Skuid works with both custom and standard objects. And I'm going to have this query on page load. I'm going to leave it bringing in 20 records on that initial query. There's some cool properties here to help you configure that query. Maybe you don't want it to go on page load. Maybe you want to wait until a user clicks a button or something else happens. You can really fine tune the Skuid page to make sure you're performant and also serving up the right data at the right time. We're going to leave that as is for now. The fields, I feel like I'm on a baking show too. This is hilarious.
Oh yeah, no, metaphors abound.
Yeah, exactly. Although we're going to build this all in one go. We're not going to do that, put it in the oven for 45 minutes.
There you go. We don't have one that's already cooking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So for this, I'm going to grab now from the opportunity object, I've got all the fields available to me, custom and standard, that are on that object. And so I'm going to grab the account ID, so the lookup relationship from the op to the account, and I'm actually going to jump into, via that lookup relationship, the account object now, and I'm going to add, just for fun, the industry field. So now...
Okay, whoa. All right, hold on. Yeah, now let's park here for a second, because this is one of the core concepts of Skuid. I think it's important for folks to understand is we're creating a connection here. We're creating a connection between you and me, Chris. Like, I feel like we're connecting as friends and colleagues. That's great. Totally. No, but we're also creating a connection between the Skuid page and the object in Salesforce. Okay, so you've set up your object, you've got your data model, and then we're connecting to that object here. We can have as many of those connections as we need. So what that means is we're getting away from this concept of one object, one page, and now we're thinking about our data model, and we can go connect to any object that we need in a single screen, in a single experience. And then what you just did was we can see all of the fields in this object, but then you navigated up one object to account. So again, we're leveraging the power of Salesforce as a relational database to go get a related field from the account object and show it in line. This is one place where I know that Salesforce admins often have to create formula fields because they want to represent parent object data in line with the main object that they're working with. So we can help you not get up against your formula field limit, and you can use Salesforce's SOCL querying tools to go get the right fields that you need, even from related objects, and have them displayed in line here. So the other thing that I want to point out is that what we're doing here is we're looking at that Salesforce metadata right now. We're looking at the fields that are in the opportunity object. And if you've ever built an application where the data model is in flight, okay, then you've probably had the experience where someone says, all right, I need you to include fields A, B, and C on this page. And you go look, and field C isn't there yet. And then you talk to the stakeholder, and they're like, oh yeah, we haven't created that field yet. Or they might say fields A, B, and C, and you go and you find two fields that have the exact same label. And you might have to say, okay, wait, which field is it? Because you might have product 2, product 3. You might have these old legacy fields in there. And so the benefit of what Skuid's doing here is we show you the label and the API name. So you can make sure that the field that your stakeholder's talking about actually exists yet, or that it's something you have to wait for, and you can make sure you have the right one with the API name. Okay, geeking out a little bit there, but the point is that you have access to this data right here, as many different objects as you need. You can go see and make sure that you're getting the right field. Those kinds of loops make it a lot faster, and you can just get on the phone with your stakeholder and say, hey, is this the right thing, as opposed to the email back and forth that might take a day for you to figure out that that field doesn't exist yet. So just a few thoughts. Okay, I'm done. Go.
No, that's solid. Yeah, it is really helpful from a build perspective to have all this just right at your fingertips as you're building, and not having to sort of cross-reference yourself as you're going in other tabs or windows. So all that I'm going to do now is just add some more fields to this particular query. So I grab the account. I'm going to grab the lead source and the name of the opportunity. And all I'm doing is tabbing, and then hitting space to select the field. And then the focus goes right back up to that search again, which is really a nice time saver for quickly adding the particular fields that you want. So I'm going to get the amount field and the close date and the is closed. So we're going to make a filter on that. We'll touch on that later. Owner ID seems good. And then because one of the most commonly asked for things with related lists was, hey, we want to be able to show a lot more fields than what the limit is. We want to show way more than 10 fields. And so I'm going to add now just random fields. It doesn't really matter, but I'm just going to grab some stuff just to show we can go more than 10. So fiscal, quarter, forecast category, lead source, main competitor. Sure. Cool. So, more than 10 fields, which is great. And then I'm going to save this. Skuid also accepts like shortcut keys. So Command S or Control S will save your page as you're going as well. So now that I've got a model on the page that's querying data, I'm going to get a component to visually present this data in the UI. So I've got the ability to double click this model, and then this is a quick create shortcut that lets me create a form or a table with all the fields that I've added to my model. So again, a great way to just let's see what data is in the org and make sure we're bringing in the right stuff. As a side note, anytime I'm building a Skuid page or like a proof of concept or an app for a customer or prospect, the first thing I do is add a model for every single object that's going to be in the app. So point a model at object A, B, C, D, whatever, customer standard, bring in all the fields that I'm going to need, slap a table into the app composer that's looking to each of those models, and then preview my page. We're going to see one table. But the benefit, because IQ score isn't a thing, so let me back that off. The benefit of that, though, is that when you can see all of that data across all of those different objects in one screen, you're able to start to understand sort of the relationships between it. So I'll have Schema Builder usually open in one tab because that's amazing. And then I'll start building out with all these tables on all these objects. And that allows you that bird's eye view into relationships, what records exist, all those kinds of things.
Yeah, and that's something that we touched on a while back. We made a guide for admins on some of the ways that Skuid can help with the admin tasks, which I would encourage everyone who's here today, go check that out. And one of the ones that we had was data management. So when you're getting started on a solution and you just want to know, all right, what is the data model? How are these things related? Just quickly creating models and then throwing a table for each on a page to give you essentially that like data model, diagnostic page can be really helpful. And I that's something that when I was building a lot that I did on almost every project. Yep.
Yeah, super, super useful feature there. The next thing I'm going to do is just make a little bit of cosmetic adjustments to this table. So again, as I mentioned in the beginning, when you click on a component, the properties for that component appear up here in the top right. And what I'm going to do is go to the Display tab. I'm going to scroll down to Other. I'm going to untick the box for Show Footer. So I want to hide the footer on this table. And then I'm also going to show the row actions on the left side of the table. And I'm about to add a row action, but this is sort of just getting ready for that because I want that action to be on the left side of the table. So very easy to configure these particular properties. I'm going to go ahead and save, and I'm going to also add some spacing just to the top of this table so it breathes a little bit between the things that we're going to add next. So I'm just going to add 16 pixels of margin or top spacing to this table. So now that we've got the table, we've got the data, we've got all of our different rows, now we're going to start doing some interactions and some sorting features. So one of the Salesforce like Idea Exchange is being able to have multiple fields sorted on page load for users, and Skuid models let you do that really easily. You can field under the fields to order records by. I'm just going to add 2 for kicks. I'm going to do create a date, ascending, and amount. And so this means on page load, Skuid is going to sort that query by whatever you've prescribed here. And you'll notice I've added more than one field, so you can sort by whatever you want to from an admin perspective. We're also going to let end users do their own sorting and filtering, but just showing some of the capabilities of the tool here. So create a date, descending, and amount is great. And now we're going to focus on being able to edit related lists inline without having to go to a list view or pop up a modal, as well as sorting related lists from an end user perspective, not just from an admin perspective. So on this table, I've got a row action menu here. I'm going to click the add button. We'll get a row action. And I'm going to call this edit, because this is where we're building in that inline edit capability for users. And it's actually even further than that. So we can inline edit the individual fields, or what we're going to do here is give users the ability to just flip the whole row into edit mode. So you're not having to click each individual field that you want to edit. The way that we do this is through Skuid's action framework. So that's my edit action. Under the actions properties, I'm going to add an action. And this is what hooks into Skuid's action framework. We could spend a whole webinar just on what you can do with the action framework. But as you can see here from the screen, this is where we've abstracted a lot of what would typically take custom code to be able to do. So things like showing pop-ups, opening sliding panels, querying multiple objects simultaneously, creating records, deleting records, invoking Salesforce things. So you can kick off approval processes or hook into like invocable Apex or all sorts of different things through Skuid's action framework. And so,
Chris, let me jump in there for a second. Yeah, because Salesforce is doing some pretty exciting things in giving folks more tools. One of the things that they announced recently, I think, was dynamic interactions, which are they're either in beta or they're coming soon, and those are pretty cool. What they do is they let admins set it up so that they can call functions, code functions that have already been configured by your developer team. That's pretty cool, but it still does require that code to come from that developer team. So if you want to build UI elements, dynamic panels, coming in and out, modals, or other kind of logic parts of the page, bringing in related data, creating related records, stuff that you want to happen in the UI, not necessarily stuff that you want to happen, server side. But if those are the kinds of things that you want to do, you can do it here declaratively without any code. So there'll still be times where it'll probably make sense to do that and have a developer build out one of those dynamic interactions that you can use in a Salesforce page. But a lot of the time, you don't have to go there with the action framework. So hopefully this helps simplify some of those applications, and you don't have to build a ton of logic in custom code. You can use this declarative tool here.
Yep, and Skuid can run those actions top to bottom. So sometimes we'll see customers with action sequences that have 15, 20 actions. And what's so beautiful about that is that from an end user perspective, they're clicking one button, and behind the scenes, 15 different things are happening that would have otherwise taken that user a lot of clicks or navigating around different things. So it's a massive efficiency gain and really easy to build out because, like Matt said, you're not writing code here to do that. I teased 15 actions. We're doing one right now, but it's still really cool. We're toggling the row mode of the table. And so I'm going to stick with toggle, which is going to bounce it back between edit and read. But you also have the ability to have it always do one of those options. Toggle makes sense for our use case, though. So I'm going to stick with that and hit save, and I'll preview the page. This is really nice about Skuid. You're getting real-time, like sort of live prototyping build with the actual app.
Yeah, this is is this what you mean factor.
Yep. And so there's our row action that appears on the left. Remember, we configured that on our table properties. So it's over here. Here's all of our fields, the nice little horizontal scroll there. And you can see any of the editable fields was able to flip into edit mode from our row action. And so if you wanted to inline edit, you still can, sort of as a one-off, or you can just flip the whole row with our toggle action. So the next thing we're going to tackle then is we've got individual row actions. We've also got mass updates with related lists. Again, with being able to stay in that record detail related list view, not having to go to a separate list view. And so the way that we can do mass updates is there's a mass actions property on the table. And so when we add a mass action, I'm going to call this actually mass update because that's what we're doing. But it will run an action sequence against any of the rows that you've selected in your table. again, really, really powerful. So maybe you want to mass update, and Skuid can do this across record types. So you're not just looking at, you don't have to be confined to just one record type at a time, but you could mass update across record types and across, a list of different things, and maybe change a field to a certain thing, or update the owner, or whatever it is that you need to do really, really easily. And so for this action, again, really simple. It's just mass update rows. And this just brings in sort of a pre-configured modal that lets you, that shows you every single field that's in that table that you can mass update, and lets a user do that. And so I'll just show you real quick what that looks like. We'll get the little check boxes over here on the left so we can kind of pick, which ones we want to do. I'll pick some random ones here. Mass update, here's that modal I was talking about. And I'm going to change the lead source on these to the web. I'll hit apply. You can see there's our updated records. Hit save, and there you have it. So we'll do this too once we deploy it as that component inside of Lightning, but just kind of showing as we're going the types of functionality and features that we're building in. All right, so that's mass updates and our row actions. The next thing we're going to do is that sort. So the end user, giving them the ability to build their own sorts. And this is kind of like a spreadsheet sort of functionality. And this is a relatively new piece of the product for Skuid. It's really powerful and really easy. You tick the box to say show sort builder and save. And then we'll show you what that looks like from an end user perspective. So I now have this sort builder. It's showing me the fact that, from our model query, the admin had configured this to be sorted on created date and amount. And as an end user, I can configure my own sort on top of that. So maybe I want to get rid of those, and I want to sort by data quality score. So I can save, and now I've got, I'm sorting by this particular. So let's flip it to ascending. And now, I can build my own sort however I want, with however many fields, ascending, descending, all those kinds of things at an individual level. So if Matt's on his page and he wants to sort by the amount and maybe the industry, he can do that. And yet my screen is going to show my sort with like data quality score and whatever else it might be.
You mean if I leave and come back, it'll save what I've sorted to be?
Yes, exactly. So you log back into your app, and you've got the filtered view that you left it as, or the sorted view that you left as. So we've now knocked through, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 different requirements. We still have some other requirements that we're going to start building out now. But again, just the ease of being able to do this, and like declaratively, not having to write code, just adjusting properties and solving for some of these really common sort of asks and pain points for folks. So
yeah, well, and
go ahead, Matt.
you said a magic word there, requirements, which we're all used to, but hopefully so far what you're seeing about Skuid, if you're here today, you see the flexibility, and we're able to respond quickly to what people need. And what we hope is that you can get out of that idea of requirements and focus more on the outcomes, focus more on the objectives, and get to that so that I can statement of user stories without get beyond the feature that they're asking for. So you can build this quickly, and you can say, okay, what is it? Why are you sorting it that way? Are you sorting it because that's what's most important to you when you get to this screen? Okay, well, if it's that way, can we bake that in so that you don't have to search to do that as much? You can start to get to those questions and know that you're going to be able to deliver it. So brief word on that. I'm sure we'll come back to it some more, but thanks, Chris. Keep going.
Yep. Now we're going to set context for this page. So again, our use case today is enhancing and giving a lot of functionality to users of the records on the related objects for record detail page in Lightning. And a record detail page is, a detail page. And so it's not helpful to just be showing opportunities across all accounts. We want the page to, respect the context of whatever account you're looking at. And we do that through what we call model conditions. So I'm going to expand this properties pane. And that's actually, shout out to Win. On the Skuid tip of the week, I legitimately did not know this. I've been at Skuid for almost 5 years. But you can push SE to expand the properties pane, or
Snap.
SC to close it. So that's what I'm doing
How are
now.
you?
So appreciate it, Win. You've made my life easier. Did not know that.
Yeah,
Very
there's some good hotkeys that I think are helpful for power users. They're building lots of Skuid pages. And a quick note, a great question from Jamie in the comments. Can Skuid be a component? Can you use Skuid as a component on a Lightning page? The answer is yes, and we're going to show you how in just a little bit. So sit tight, that's coming.
perfect. Yes. So what we're going to do is add our condition now. And let me go down in my model. There's a conditions. And I can add a condition. This is like for Salesforce admins or devs, this is the where clause in your SOCL query. So as you're configuring, the question you're asking the database, this is where you're saying, hey, only show me the opportunities where the account is. And then I've got a few options here. I'm going to stick with page URL parameter value, because what we're doing, if we go back to our Lightning detail page here, the account ID is up here in the URL. And so what we're going to do is have Skuid be looking up to that URL and say, hey, whatever opportunity, whatever account ID is up here, that's the one that you need to show the opportunities for, the opportunities that look to that account. And so I'm going to say ID is my page URL parameter value, and we're going to leave this condition always on. Skuid lets you have these be filterable, which is super powerful for dynamic and sort of applications that you're needing to pass different values in and change data based on all sorts of different things. But for this, we always want to make sure we're looking at just the ops for whatever account we're on. So we're going to leave that as is. The next thing we're going to do is start to add a little bit more detail on our page to make it really clear for users what's going on. So I'm going to grab a Skuid text component. I'm going to pop this down on the right above the table component, and I'm just going to call this opportunities. And then I'm going to adjust a few properties on this component to make it easier to see. So under the styles property, this again is where we're tying back into Skuid's Design System Studio. You can create many variants of any sort of font sizes or bold like weight of the font that you want, and then leverage those from here. I'm just choosing our medium variant, which makes this a little bit larger, and then I'm going to add some spacing on the top of this of 8 pixels.
Which for folks watching, Chris did not just eyeball what medium maybe looks like. Oh, maybe it's 57 pixels. I don't know. And that's really important, because when we talk about design, it's very important that it scales. So we'll come back to the Design System Studio, but the benefit of working from those variants means that anyone who's building a Skuid page in your organization, maybe you have multiple teams in your organization building multiple pages, but you want them to look like the same application. Anytime someone selects medium text, it's all going to pull from your Design System Studio from that text variant. So think about how not just you are designing your applications well, but how does that design scale? All right, we'll come back to that in a bit.
Yep. And the reason the page is blank here is because I wanted to highlight the implications of adding a model condition. And so when we added that model condition of looking up to the URL for the account ID, this preview doesn't have an account ID up there. So I'm going to go back to my app composer. And now with that model condition in place, when I hit preview, Skuid's going to ask and say, okay, you're deployed as a component in Lightning. There'd be that ID up there. For now, though, in order to show you this page, which account you want to sort of pretend that you're looking at. So I'll just choose Edge Communications and go. And now this table is just pulling in the opportunities where Edge Communications is the account. And anytime you hit preview, it'll ask you that. And so if you wanted to see what it looks like for another account record, you could see there's the opportunity for Burlington. We'll stick with Edge for now, but that's the one important thing. If you're building and you get this, and you've just added a model condition, for URL parameter, go back, hit preview, and then just make sure you plug in that ID. Okay, so now that we've got the table that has the context of the account, we're going to bring in a few more objects and some other layout pieces from a component standpoint. And so we just did the text component for opportunities. I'm going to grab another one, and I'm going to drag this beneath this table. And this time I'm going to call this one cases. And I'm going to do the same styles. So the style variant will be medium, and the spacing is also going to be 8 pixels. Let's make that 16 actually, because the table is up above it. So we want to give that a little bit of separation. The next thing we're going to do, again, solving for one of those common requirements, is the ask for, hey, I want to see multiple views of the same object in my related list. So I don't want to go to a list view and add a filter. I want to see sort of side by side, my opportunities that are open, my opportunities that are closed. I want to see those sort of broken apart. We're actually going to do that with cases. And so I have the text component down here saying cases. I'm going to use a tab set component to split these up. And so pop that down here beneath the text component. I'll add a little bit of spacing here. This time we'll do 8. And now for my tab, I'm going to call this open. And so now we've got the component ready to go, and now we're going to go add another model to look at the case object to bring in cases, and then we're going to add some conditions to make sure they're just cases that are open. So I'm going to go back to my models, add a model, and this is where, as Matt was saying, you start to extrapolate from here. You've got those complex use cases. Maybe you've got 8, 10, dozen more custom objects in your application. Skuid gives you the ability to surface all of those up in your app, showing your users the data they need to see without having to have them drill down through related lists, through related lists, through related lists, bringing it all up front and center. And the way we do that is through adding models, pointing it to whatever objects you need, and then presenting that through the components.
Yeah,
really powerful feature here.
Yeah, we're gonna. This is part of Skuid's secret sauce, and yes, it's grandma's original chocolate chip cookie recipe that gets passed down from generation to generation, but it's really powerful. So I want to talk about it for a second, because that desire to have the same object but multiple views, okay, open and closed, that's a really good use case. That's what we're doing here. But it's also what you're really asking for when a sales team says, how do we look at similar opportunities? How do we go find more pipeline that matches this? Okay, really what that means is another query on opportunities where you can see different products that you've sold within this account family, or other accounts that you've sold to within this product family. So as long as you have it in the data model, that's why the Salesforce data model is so powerful. As long as you have that configured, then you can use these queries to go get similar opportunities. You can find that white space. And that has direct effects on being able to find more revenue for your company. So that's really what folks are asking for when they want to get that in their page, when we talk about different views of the same object. So hopefully that makes sense. But go ahead and keep going, Chris.
Yeah, and that really is so important. It's worth reiterating the point you made at the beginning, where you don't have to compromise your data model to back into a good UI. You can build out that necessary complexity, and then Skuid can surface and let you deliver that great UI and UX on top of that data model. So all I'm doing here is just pointing this to the case object. And so then from a field perspective, I'm looking at the fields. Again, customer standard, they're on my case object. I'm going to grab the account because we want to make sure we're only looking at cases that are tied to that account ID. So I need that lookup relationship. And then for case, we've already proved that we can do more than 10 fields. There's no need to do that again. So I'm just going to add the case type field, the closed, because we're going to use that in our condition. And let's do status and subject. Those are commonly used. All right. And so there's our related cases open. And now we're going to make sure that it is just the open cases. So we're adding a condition. And here we're going to look to that closed, that is closed Boolean. And I'm going to say only show me case records where is closed is not true. And this condition is going to always be on. And so let me close this property pane a little bit more. Now I'm going to double click again to do that quick create of the table with all the fields that are in my model. I'm going to drag that table up here into my open cases tab and hit save. Let's preview. Or actually, first, let's add another condition because we need to tie it to that account ID. That would have brought back all the cases.
Right.
So let's do that real quick, where account ID is page URL parameter value ID. This time I don't have to hit preview again. I can just refresh because that ID is already up here from my opportunity preview.
Which, speaking of that URL, if you're looking at that, it says Visualforce in it. And what happens when you preview a Skuid page is we quickly wrap it in a Visualforce page so that you can actually see it. You can deploy Skuid in Visualforce, you can deploy Skuid in Lightning, and it can be the same Skuid page. So if you're still in the process of migrating to Lightning, or if you're planning to migrate to Lightning from Visualforce, Skuid is a good fit because you can build pages now and use the same page in Visualforce and Lightning together. So sorry, keep going.
No, that's really important. I'm glad you called that out. Yeah, Skuid's native in both. All the configuration that we've been doing back here, dragging, dropping components, adding models, that's not creating Visualforce or Apex or Aura or anything like that. It's actually getting somewhat technical. It's just creating XML that the browser and Skuid is putting together in the runtime. And so the short of that, though, means we're going to be native in Classic. We're going to be native in Lightning. You're not going to have to reconfigure things depending on that environment. So we've got our tab set. We've got our table of open cases. And now a really convenient shortcut, because I want to show a tab of my closed cases, is I can clone my model because I've got all the fields here. I've got the conditions, all that kind of thing. I don't want to rebuild this. So I'm going to hit duplicate. And when I'm using your shortcut all the time now, this is great. Related cases open, and I'm going to just call this related cases closed. And all I have to do now is just adjust my condition for is not true to is true. And then I double click to create my table from that model. And then let's give it a spot. So we'll add a tab, go to the new tab. I'm going to call this closed. Drag my table in here, save it. And for the sake of design, I'm also going to adjust this table to hide its footer. You don't need to show that. I'm going to go ahead and do the same for this table. And then we'll preview our page and see one of the ways in which you can have multiple views of the same object, the case object in this case. So open, you can see there's our closed Boolean. You know, all of these are open cases. And then if we go to the close tab, there's our one case that happens to be closed. So it's really nice. By default, we have the user seeing the ones that are open, probably the ones they care about more. But if they need to, it's very easy to just pop over and get a quick glance at, oh yeah, here's the cases that are closed for this particular account. So we'll leave that there. Let's see. Okay. So for our next requirement, we're going to add some filtering to, we're just going to filter our opportunity table. And then we're also going to drag a chart or a dashboard in, which is really, really powerful and exciting. But first we'll do the filters. Just wanted to tease the chart. It's super cool and nice to be able to bring in those visualizations anywhere your users might need to see them.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we talk about a lot is operationalized BI. So you got BI tools out there that do really, really heavy number crunching. They're leveraging the power of a server across millions, billions of rows of data. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about day-to-day work. You got a sales rep. They're looking at their territory. They want to get some insights and they want to take action, all in the same experience. And when you can have some visualizations, you can have some action via the action framework, you can have data entry with inline editing, then you can do everything you need to do in a single screen. So that's one of the things that we just see again and again as being one of the reasons why this is helpful. I was talking to someone who's been working with Skuid in the Salesforce world for a while. I was just asking him, hey, you know, what's good? What's good about it? What are your favorite things? He said, multiple objects, one page. It's still one of the best things about Skuid, and one of the best ways that you can save a lot of time and effort. So yeah, all right, keep going.
All right, so the next piece we're going to do a little bit of layout and then some functionality. And what I mean by layout is we're going to grab a responsive grid, and I'm going to pop that beneath the opportunities text, but above our opportunities table. And then I'm going to add a division. So again, giving you complete control over how the page is laid out, control over the white space. Do you want 6 columns, 1 column, 2 columns, like whatever it might be. We just need 2 divisions because we're going to have our filters over here on the left. So I'm going to grab the filter component, pop that down in this division. And then I'm going to add a filter. And from here, you just need to point the filter set to whatever model the records that that you're wanting to filter. So I'm wanting to filter opportunities. So I'm going to point that to the related ops model, which is looking at my opportunity object. And then for the filter, I'm going to choose a multi-select option. So I'm going to let users filter by stage here. And so if they want to see more than one stage, this is a great way for them to be able to do that. A couple more properties, show the label above the filter. Yep, I'm just going to use the fields label. And then the none selected, it's just going to be all stages, because that's what they're looking at that point if they haven't filtered by anything. So let's do a quick save, a quick refresh, see how we're doing. There's our filter stages. Let's do value prop or ID decision makers. See if we get anything in there. Oh, value prop. There we go. There's one. Very cool. And so I can reset that, and there's all of my opportunities. But gives the end user the ability to choose from my related list view without hopping into a different view. Let me filter real quick and get down to the things that I need to see.
Now, one of the things that you were doing there, Chris, was pretty granular. You were choosing where to show the label of the filter.
Oh yeah.
And I'm calling that out because I think it's really easy to go with a technology first mindset as opposed to a design first mindset. Okay, because we get stuck in the loops that we're used to, the technology that we're working on, and we start from the perspective of, oh, I can only do A, B, and C. Therefore, the design needs to look like one of those things. One of the great things about Skuid that I've seen over the past couple of years is we've been able to work with some incredible designers, and they start with the design first approach, and not just visual design, interaction design. What is the whole experience like? Designing that experience, what it needs to be, and then Skuid being able to say, okay, you started with this design, and then we can deliver it, as opposed to starting with the technology. Let's narrow it down. What can we design given that technology? We don't want to do that. We want to get folks starting to think about, let's start from a design first perspective, and then go from there, and then implement something.
Well said, Matt. Well said. Yeah, couldn't say better. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to add another filter though, and this time we're going to stick with multi-select because that's nice. But we're going to let folks filter on the lead source, and hopefully you're getting the gist here of you can have them filter on whatever they need to make this experience great for them. We're just choosing the stage and the lead source. And same thing, I'm going to show the fields label up above that, and then I'm just going to say all sources if they haven't filtered by anything. And again, quick check, make sure this is working as expected. There's our lead sources. Let's do from the web. And there's our filter working, which is great. All right, the last filter we're going to do, just to show another approach to this. Again, thinking about what do users need to see and making sure that we're delivering something of value to them. One of the other filters that we can do is called a toggle filter. So instead of a select or multi-select or numeric range, whatever, we're going to do a toggle. And what a toggle does is, well, it's pretty obvious, toggles on or off. And the way that a toggle works, though, is it's activating a condition that's on your model. And so what I'm going to do for this to work is I'm going to go back to my related ops model. I'm going to go to my conditions. I'm going to add a condition. And this one is going to be, let's just look at ops that are closed. So I'm going to use our Boolean, our is closed Boolean. I'm going to say opportunity records where is closed is true. And instead of always on, I'm going to have it filterable default off. So on page load, I see, all the opportunities open and closed. But as soon as the user hits this toggle, boom, that activates. And now we're just looking at ops that are closed. So we will now go back to our toggle filter. For the label, I'm going to say closed ops. And now I go to the effects property. So this is saying, what does this toggle affect? The action that I want is just to activate a model condition. And it's that is closed condition, which you can see right here on that model. So when I save that and preview the page, we now get a toggle filter up here, which you can design in the Design System Studio. It's really tempting to not just jump over there and start designing, but I'm resisting. But functionality, very cool. So I toggle it, and now you can see it immediately just brings back the opportunities that are closed. I untoggle it, and now we see everything. So a couple different ways here of getting the filtered view. We've got filters up here, to let you sort of slice and dice down to what you need to see. You've got sorting capabilities to prioritize of that filtered view, like let's sort by, whatever it might be. Or you've got tab sets to sort of break apart those different views. Again, tons of flexibility here, really just about what is going to be a great UX, UI for your particular users and their unique processes.
Good question in the chat. That I do want to call out while we're here, and I think Wen already answered it, but Lynette asked if you could filter by both stages and lead sources together. So there's a couple of ways you can answer that. One is you've got all those filters on there, and you can just pick the ones you want to get the combinations you want. You can also create some manual combinations as well. That gets a little bit more advanced. We're not going to get into that today, but yes, you could go set up, a toggle filter that just says, show me my number one ops. And what that means is, stuff with stage A and, lead source B. And I know that works. And I just want a button that shows me my good stuff every time. You can go set that up if you want. So there's ways of doing that. So the answer is yes and yes, depending on, what it is that you're looking for there.
Awesome. And as a time check, I'm going to try and wrap up the build here in the next 12-ish minutes or so. So
cool. So I'll try and walk it back a little bit when I wax eloquent.
No.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Keep waxing eloquent. We're good. We're almost done with it. So timing is solid. And then we want to get to the AirPod raffle too.
Oh yeah.
So the piece that we're going to do now, this is where we're going to start getting into a little bit of UX. So a lot of what we've got here is UI in terms of how things are laid out, what we're looking at, and then the UX, sort of how we're interacting with that, the toggling of the row mode, the filtering, those kinds of things. We want to add another enhancement though, because let's say I'm editing this record and I'm changing the lead source to phone inquiry. I've got a save button on my table, which is nice, so I can save that. But if I'm changing a case record, and let's change the case type to problem, sure. I've got a save button here. It'd be really nice if I just had one save button, regardless of whether or not I made a change on the opportunity or the case or anything. Just give me one simple save button, let it handle everything. So we'll build that real quick. And that's what our right division is here on our responsive grid, is for our button set component, where we're going to add our save and cancel, our global save and cancel buttons. So I'm going to add two buttons. The first one, we'll do our cancel action. So I'm just going to call it cancel. And then the actions are cancel model changes. And instead of just that one model, I'm going to check all these boxes. So now when a user pushes that button, it cancels changes across our open cases, closed cases, and our opportunities. And then I'm doing the same thing for our save button, except the action is, of course, save. So there's our label. We'll add our action, save model changes, check all. That's great. And now the save cancel buttons that come with those tables are redundant and would be very confusing. So let's untick this box so that they go away on our tables. So we're just choosing to not show the save and cancel buttons. Let's hit save and we'll refresh. And so our tables have been cleaned up. We've got a global save and cancel. Let's make save more of a primary action. So for the style property on save, I'm going to change the design to primary. This is really nice. You get that immediate feedback of oops, those buttons look too similar. Let's adjust that, make it a more of a natural pattern there. And so as a quick test, let's change the lead source from phone inquiry to partner referral. So there's a change on the opportunity that I haven't saved yet. And now let's change the status of a case to working. And then, so it's this row right here in opportunities, this row in case. We'll hit our global save, and both of those have saved now. Really nice.
So, Chris, what
Yeah.
you're doing here is it's button management. And thinking
Mhm.
about the buttons on your page, it's helpful to think about what actions are you driving the user toward.
Yeah.
Don't think about it as a static page. Back at the beginning, Sean was talking about the difference between consumer grade apps and business apps. And if you're talking about something that's consumer facing or customer facing on the web, especially from a marketing perspective, you're always thinking about that call to action. It's not just out there and then, we hope that the customer or the prospect sees it and, maybe they'll come around at some point. No, you want it to drive to a specific action. And if you can apply that experience to your business apps, your users are going to thank you. You're going to get better data quality. What's the action that you're driving toward in the apps that you're building? And a big part of that is, what are you doing with your buttons? Is it clear what they do? Is it easy to get to those? And Skuid is going to make that possible.
Great. So the last thing we're going to do before we deploy this in Lightning, haven't forgotten about you. I think it was Jamie who was asking about that. Want to make sure we cover off on that, is get our chart in here. So what we're going to do, grab the chart component. I'm going to pop this down right above opportunities. And then I'm going to choose the type of chart that I want. I'm going to choose a column. There's a lot of different options here. And I want to make sure it's looking at my opportunities model. That's what I'm wanting to display the visualizations for. And then the axis, the category, so this is, across the x-axis here, I'm going to choose lead source. And then the series, so this is the data that's coming into the chart. I'm going to add a series to this chart. And now I'm going to configure sort of how the chart's interpreting this. So I'm going to sum on the amount field of the opportunities. That's what I'm going to be visualizing. And then I'm going to split or stack based on the stage. So if there's multiple opportunities in multiple stages, but all have the same lead source, it's going to stack these. So I get a nice visual there. I'm going to choose my split template of stage, which is stage name.
Template is just a label here.
Yep.
Yep.
Thanks for clarifying that. And then I'm going to make an adjustment on the display properties of the chart so that stacking is on. So I'm going to hit save. We'll refresh our page. And now we've got a chart. So I can see the summed amount. Closed one is 310,000. Under the partner referral qualification is 150,000. You can hover over and see what those summed amounts are. Because they're looking to the related ops model, my opportunities, and my table is looking to that model, and my filter is looking to that model, they are all listening to each other. So if I switch to closed, now my visualization is just showing ops that are closed. My table's just showing ops that are closed. So really powerful, dynamic experience to kind of blend insights with action. So let me see my visualizations. Let me slice and dice down to what I need to see, and I'm still in the place where I can take action on those records. All right, we're going to get this in Lightning, and then we'll have some time for the raffle and some Q&A.
Cool.
So I'm going to go back to my detail page. You can see I've got my detail component over here. I've got the out-of-the-box related lists from Lightning here, other Lightning components. And what I'm going to do is just hop into Lightning App Builder. And because, like I was mentioning, Skuid is native in both Lightning and Classic, we come with our own Skuid page Lightning component. This is a true Lightning component. It's not a Visual Force wrapper or anything like that. And all that I'm going to do is drag this Skuid page into the canvas, and it's going to default to the page that I was working on last, which is our related list page, which works out great. So there it is. I'm going to save. If you're doing this for the first time, you'd have to activate it. I've already got this page activated, so I'm going to go back to my account detail. And again, because we've got that account ID up here in the URL, our Skuid page now is looking to that URL and bringing in those contextually relevant opportunities and cases. And so when we scroll down, you can see how this kind of all blends together. You can see there's our filters, there's our table. It's everything we've been working with and dealing with, but now in the context of Lightning, everything still works the same. It's just we've now componentized this in and amongst the other Lightning components. yeah, I'll stop there. Matt, you want to add any comments here before we kind of
Yeah, no, I just, it's great looking back because I remember what it was like to deploy Skuid in Visualforce before Lightning was around. And, it's not too hard. We give you the instructions on how to do it. There's a couple questions about how to use Skuid in Classic and in Visualforce in there. And I'm sure that Wen and Cody will post some links there. We've got links in our resources in our docs that can walk you through that. Essentially, you put Skuid in a Visualforce page, and then you can use that Visualforce page in all of your Classic navigation and all that. But that whole process is you have to wrap it in code. You put it inside, Visualforce page in the code builder. What's great about the Lightning App Builder is that it actually is 100% declarative. You can build your Skuid page declaratively, and then you just drop the component in the Lightning App Builder. So for me, who's not a coder, who has somehow found himself, this many years into life in the Salesforce ecosystem without having to learn code, that is huge. So, but yes, you can deploy Skuid via a Visualforce page in Classic. We've got a walkthrough in that in our docs that we can post a link to, and then you can use that same page in Lightning. So great questions there from Tracy. Hopefully that helps. But yeah, let's keep on rolling, Chris.
Yep. Last thing I wanted to mention, Matt, and then we can focus on Q&A as we're coming up on when we're going to stop like our live build, is as a component here on the page, one of the things that's really powerful about Lightning is their Lightning events framework, and that ability to publish events and listen to events and basically keep all the components in sync. And Skuid can listen and publish events in the Lightning events framework. So if you make a change anywhere, in this case on the account record, and you need the Skuid component to reflect that change or refresh or anything like that, we're hooked into that Lightning events framework, and everything will stay in sync. So just a really, again, nice way of complementing and fitting right in and extending some of that value of Lightning without being, a disruption or another tab or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. I'm going to leave it at that, Matt, and we roll through some questions. You have the honors of selecting the raffle winner. So
yeah, and we do. Yeah, we've got some time for questions. We do have a raffle winner. There's a lot of stuff that we didn't look at today. I think probably everyone on the call is thinking very much about functionality. This is a very functionality centric build, and sometimes that's just where you're at because those are the business problems that you want to solve. But if you are building in Experience Cloud and brand is more important to you and styling is more important to you, well, we've got something called Design System Studio, which lets you get to that pixel perfect. We talked a little bit about that, but we didn't dig into it. I would highly recommend that you look into that. We also have other tools that are going to be helpful. They're part of the Skuid experience. If you are looking to build an app outside of Salesforce, Skuid can help with that. Whether you're wanting to build it with Salesforce data, or maybe it's not Salesforce at all, you can deploy outside of Salesforce with Skuid, connect to REST APIs, other systems. So if that's interesting to you, please reach out to us. We would love to help you. So let's see. I think we're doing okay on time. Chris, do you want to show an example of a Skuid Experience Cloud implementation with the DSS?
Definitely. Yeah. So let's pop my screen back up and just pull this over. Okay, perfect. Matt, can you see?
Yeah, coming through. Okay. Looks beautiful.
Sweet. So yeah, this is an app. Built this during 2020 when ordering food on my phone for pickup seemed
Yep.
fairly common occurrence.
It's a thing now.
So what's so cool about this is we built out a few different custom objects in Salesforce. We used a junction object to handle like the many-to-many relationships between menu items and orders and all those fun things. And then we're able to make this app look beautiful in a community. And so users can access this, and this is kind of what it looks like on their phone. All of the design pieces here, as Matt mentioned, Design System Studio, and didn't have to do any HTML or CSS. So what we've got here, a few things going on, just move through this, is we have some fun microcopy. Admittedly, when I first heard microcopy, I thought it was literal, like just really tiny copy. And it's actually just sort of winsome, fun copy. So instead of, order, it would say something like get that grub. And so Skuid, with our UI only fields, so fields that are only visible in the UI, lets you have fun with different sorts of expressions and things like that without burning up fields on your object to handle some of that stuff. So let's actually, get that grub. And now we jump into a menu view. I've got some filters here. So if I want to order coffee or cocktails or just stick with an entree, all of this is designed to be very dynamic. So whether this is on an iPad or desktop or mobile, it's going to be responsive in terms of what it looks like. The biggest piece from the design perspective that's going on here that as just really, really cool is something called style variant conditions. And this is where Skuid lets you choose to show different looking components or different styled components based on certain parameters. So what I've got here, you can see each of these menu items has a light gray background, a card, and all of these values are at 0. I have a style variant condition on these cards to say, hey, if the quantity is more than 0 or greater than 0, switch to a blue background, sort of showing a selected state. And what's great about that is I don't have to have 2 different cards. I can have one card that is dynamically adjusting based on, whatever parameter, in this case, quantity greater than 0. You can also see the shopping cart is now reflecting in real time the number of items that I've gotten there. It's turning into quite a feast, actually. And I can review that shopping cart. So if I click on the shopping cart, we're going to open a sliding panel. So this is, again, the action framework at work. Yep. So open a sliding panel. And now we've got a pick list in Salesforce that we're showing as a connected button set. This is much easier if you're thinking about your thumbs on a phone to tap as opposed to scrolling a pick list. So again, trying to enhance that UI, make it easy for someone to get the thing done that they're trying to do. And here's just a filter view of only the items that I've added to my list. If I submit the order, unfortunately you all can't see my phone, but you can actually hook into Salesforce's process builder to send push notifications, which is super powerful and a really nice feature. So on submit order, it goes ahead, sends a push notification to my phone and says, hey, we're working on your order, whatever it might be. You can also hop back and adjust your order really easily with whatever you want. You can cancel, it'll clear everything out, take you back in. And I think actually if I go back now, get that grub will switch. Yeah, treat yourself. Shout out to Parks and Rec. Nice. So yeah, just nice little rotation there, some fun micro copy without having to take up fields on the database. And then a lot of flexibility when it comes to design and bringing in your particular brand and creating a great UX for folks. So
that's great, Chris. Thank you so much. The reason I think that's helpful to see is just to get a sense of the range of what Skuid can do. So again, what we spent the most of our time on today was very functionality minded. I need a table, I need some filters, and sometimes that's enough. But even for internal apps, this kind of thing can be important. If you're building an HR portal, then brand is really important for your people as they log in to feel like they're a part of your organization. So if you're building something for Experience Cloud, or in this case, it's Experience Cloud through Mobile Publisher for a mobile app, or if you want to build an app that's internal, that's used, Lightning on desktop, but it's also in the Salesforce mobile app, Skuid is a good fit for that. And you think about how the action framework is helpful. Those sliding panels, those are great, and they're a lot of fun when it comes to a desktop app. When it comes to a mobile app, they're essential because real estate, you have a lot less to work with. And so we let you think about those design decisions and know that you're going to be able to deliver on what you need to build. So thanks so much for showing that. And again, I would encourage everyone to look into Skuid's resources if you're interested more in Design System Studio, deploying Skuid outside of Salesforce. Great question from Jeff in the comments. If we have a design studio session, we've got a number of videos that I think would be helpful in that regard. So we'll either post those in the comments here or follow up with you on that. But check out the Skuid YouTube channel. We've got walkthroughs that look at Design System Studio as well as other parts of Skuid. So we're coming up on time. I want to give us a few minutes for some questions. Before we do that, let's go ahead and announce our winner. The winner of the raffle for the AirPods is Zach Burns. Thank you, Zach, for coming. Great to have you. Great to have everyone today. Couple things. If you want to start building with Skuid, please go check out our install option. You can install from the website. We walk you through the whole process. We walk you through building your first page. You can start building today. You get 5 users for free out of the box. So if you got a simple app, you want to get going on it, start building right now. We've also got a handbook for this whole session. If you'd like to go take your time and build this yourself, if what we built today is useful to you and your team, you can go build it today and deliver it to your team. That handbook should be helpful in that regard. Chris and I have a Dreamforce session coming out on the Salesforce Plus streaming service as part of Dreamforce this year. We look at accessibility and making 508 compliant apps. If that's something that's important to you, it is important to a lot of folks. We work with a number of public sector customers. It's very important when you have an app for government employees, but it's also very important if you have a customer facing app. It's important for liability reasons. It's also just important because that's how you build inclusive apps for your people. And that is really critical in creating the right kind of environment for people to thrive. We're all about human-centered design at Skuid, so this is very near to our hearts. So check that out. That's coming as part of the Dreamforce sessions this week? No, next week. Yeah. So there's also a resources section of this event, which has a lot that's available for you. Jeff, good question. For the free version of Skuid, it's five users total. And the way Skuid works is you get Skuid and you can have as many builders or as many end users, that within that group of users as you want. So if you've got 5 power users and you want them all building Skuid pages, that sounds a little intense, but you could do that if you want it. But that's up to you in terms of how you assign those permissions. But yeah, that's the free version of Skuid. And then if you're interested in deploying above and beyond that, we'd love to talk to you about pricing and licensing. But won't get into that too much today. Okay, let's see. There's a good question about a hierarchy chart for a related list. On an account page, custom object records, where it's a junction object to connect accounts. You know what? I am confident that to solve that problem, you could do it with Skuid. It might not look exactly the way you think of it. So it depends on what you're visualizing in terms of a hierarchy chart. But visualizing hierarchy and data relationships is absolutely possible in Skuid. We have ways of doing nested tables so that you can have groups of tables that roll up to a parent record, and you can go several levels down. You can do that with our deck component, so you might want to check that out. We can do drawers in tables, so you can open up a table row to expand and see more information within there. There's many different ways to visualize hierarchies of information in Skuid. So good question. Please get in on the community. We'd also love to follow up with you on that. But I'm pretty confident that you could solve that problem with Skuid.
Yeah, I just did something similar actually for a prospect. They needed it in a hierarchy view. They had 11 custom objects. So again, outside of standard objects, so can't just flip on the hierarchy view. They had 11 custom objects, including 3 junction objects. And we were able to get all of that in a single page with some accordions, with some nested components, as Matt was saying, and get that visualized for them in, that was 6 hours actually to do that. So great use case, like really, really good use case. We'd love to dig in more on that for sure.
Awesome. All right. So yeah, again, please go start building. Get on the community.skuid.com. You can post questions, ideas there. And we would love to hear from you there. Thank you everyone for coming today. If there's no other questions, I think we're going to finish up. We'll give it 15 seconds for that last Indiana Jones slide through the shutting door there for a question. And well, okay, you know what? We got some links too. So make sure you check out the chat there. I don't know if that, is retained for posterity. So, get those links while they're hot. Wen just posted a video about the Design System Studio. She should know. She's built some beautiful apps. So to close us out, I do want to shout out one more time Wen and Cody for answering questions, for making a great curriculum to walk folks through it. And thank you, everyone, for coming. Great questions, great engagement. We're going to keep doing more of these. Again, dive in today. We'd love to see you on the community. Thanks, everyone, and have a great week.